of our wonderful anticipated group. I'm really happy to have Lynn and Eva present to us from Hospice Simcoe up in the Barrie area, for those of you who don't know which Hospice Simcoe is. Eva has been working hard on the technology, which I understand is not Lynn's forte.
I also work on the content.
Yes, the technology and the content. And Lynn and she will be telling us more about the program that they run. For those of you who've already received it, you've got your copy of the journal that is provided to all their participants in their hospice writing group. And Susan is giving you a Vanna White at the moment, just in case you haven't yet seen it. And just for those of you who aren't certain, I'm going to give you the heads up that Eva is looking at her computer screen as she talks to us and her camera is down below. So it's not that she's trying to be disrespectful and not connect with you, but it's the only way to properly do this. So I asked her right away, I was like, this is very odd. I need to see somebody properly. So I wanted to give that heads up. So thank you, Eva. We really appreciate you speaking with us. We have this on record so that we will make sure those who can't be here at this moment have the ability to participate. If you don't have your book yet, your journal, please email Lynn. It's lyne@island.ca. I've learned it because I've had to put it into notes so many times, which is a good thing. And we are looking forward to participating with you and experiencing this. And if we can ask everybody who's not participating to please put your mics on mute so that we can hear our presenters. And don't forget, at the end of the presentation, please do your evaluation online in the event Mobi. Ladies, it's all yours.
So this is, can you hear me all right? I'm counting on somebody to let me know if there's nothing happening. Thank you. Okay. So this is the agenda, just trying to keep us kind of on track here. So after the preliminaries, we'll look at the what and why of expressive writing for grief. And we're going to launch right into a writing session so that you can experience it for yourselves.
And we'll also share experiences with our Hospice Simcoe Writers Club, how it is presented to clients, how it started 2 years ago, and continues today. We will share how we work as co-facilitators, give examples of writing prompts for grief, and explain a meeting format that has worked for us. As an added bonus, we will listen to video clips of our members as they read their own writing. If time permits, we'll have a second writing session. Let's start by acknowledging Indigenous stewardship of the beautiful lands that we live on. And if I may, in honor and memory of every child that attended a residential school, I light this candle. We extend our thanks to the Anishinaabe people, including Odawa, Potawatomi, and Ojibwe nations known as the Three Fires Confederacy. We are situated on their traditional territory. The Wendat Nation occupied these lands until the mid-17th century.
We're also extending our thanks to our writing club members, past and present, and especially those members who agreed to share their recorded work with you. And I've listed their names here. And also there's our staff coordinator and support person, Pauline Risk.
And now that you know who Eva and I are, we would like to get an idea of who you are. I'm going to ask you to raise your virtual Zoom hand in response to 3 questions. And this is where, Susan, I'm going to need your help, okay? First
Okay.
question. Thank you. Raise your hand if you are facilitating any kind of writing now or have done so in the past.
Okay, we have Lori who has her hand up. We have Sue Phillips, Christine, Trish. If I could get to mine, I would put mine up too.
Perfect.
So 5 of us at this point.
Thank you, Susan. Second question. Raise your hand if the writing that you facilitated was specifically writing for grief.
Okay, and just to let you know, Deb, it's on the very bottom where the chat area is. Reactions are where you can put there's a hand up. So for the first one, Lynn, add in another person because Deb wasn't able to find.
Thank you.
And always add me in. So right now, specifically for grief, you have 3 hands.
Christine, Lori, and
Susan.
Susan. Perfect. Thank you, Susan. Third and final question. Raise your hand if you are participating in a writing group of any kind. So now it's not just about facilitating, but participation.
Okay, you currently have hands up from Sue, from Christine. And Trish.
Thank you so much. That gives us a bit of an idea into your writing background. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to hope to hear something more about writing group for grief from Christine, Lori, and Susan. It'll be fun to compare.
Here are our learning outcomes from our bond proposal. At the end of our session, you will be able to explain the benefits of writing through grief, describe how to go about facilitating writing sessions, and plan your own Writers Club for grief if that is your wish. Has anyone heard of Dr. James Pennebaker? He is sometimes called the father of expressive writing. He has studied and explained the many benefits of expressive writing. I know that for myself, personally, when I am grieving, I write. It helps relieve my anxiety and stress. I always feel better when I put my emotions down on paper, as the paper doesn't react, doesn't tell me what to do, and doesn't try to fix me. Expressive writing allows me to step back and look at my feelings from another perspective, the written word.
So as Lynn has already showed us in this previous slide, writing itself can be therapeutic, and that's irrespective of the genre. It can be fiction or nonfiction, poetry or prose, whatever appeals to the writer. And our Writers Club for Grief is effectively also a peer support group, and that it brings together those with similar experience and hence the capacity to be empathetic. And we write and share together in real time, although members can also choose to share homework with the group. We give only appreciative, validating feedback. It's not about critiquing or about the craft of writing, but really about allowing a safe space for creativity and expression. So our Writers Club for Grief lies at the intersection of all of these elements. So it's actually in this little sweet space where the benefits add up in a multiplier effect.
This particular slide here is very special to me, as the words you see come directly from our lovely Writers Club members. They share how writing helps them in their grief journey. Some of the common things that Eva and I hear from our members are that the Writers Club for Grief is a safe place to access process, and express painful emotions and to pour them out on paper. Expressive writing allows them to look at grief from a distance, so to speak. We've had members who initially couldn't even say the name of their loved one, but by the end, were telling stories, including funny stories, and sharing deeply loving memories. Our members express that sharing and being creative together in a group makes them feel less alone. We often hear that family and friends don't want to listen to them anymore, so they no longer share their grief there. Group bonding and mutual support is another thing that comes up. Our observation is that healing comes from being supported, but maybe more importantly, from supporting others in the group. That sense of being able to give and alleviate the suffering of others possibly gives some meaning to the loss and a sense of purpose to their lives. Before we get into our first mini writing exercise with you, let's take a moment to listen with intention to the wisdom of one of our members. Just relax and give yourself permission to be fully present now.
How do I give myself permission? Permission to laugh, permission to explore, permission to follow dreams, permission to have dreams. I need variety, newness, permission to let feelings act as salve to my pain. Compassion, kindness, homemade soup, hugs, hope. Let go, follow the path, and see where it leads.
So give yourself permission to participate fully in this little writing exercise. We'll start with just coming present. So just
Eva?
feel the feet. Yes?
Eva, just to let you know, you have to speak up a little. I'm finding it's a bit difficult to hear you.
Okay, I'm trying to move closer to my microphone, but I'm actually wearing a headset. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. Yeah. So, yeah, let's settle in and inhabit our bodies. So coming to the sensations of the body sitting in this field of gravity. If you like, you can let your eyes drift closed or just let them go soft focus, whichever. And allow yourself to just immerse in the sensations of the body breathing. Feel how the body creates space on the inhale, relaxes into it on the exhale. The body breathes. So just let that be your anchor, so to speak, in the present moment, that flow of the body breathing. And allow yourself to reflect on grief or loss in your own life. And here, I really want you to practice self-care and self-compassion. There's no need to go into your most fraught memories or to re-traumatize yourself. So I'm counting on you to practice self-care in this reflection. Feel it in your body. Feel the body breathing. And then allow yourself to choose one of these prompts or to just follow your own direction start writing. We'll have a 3-minute writing time, and I'll give you a heads up when we're getting close to the end. We'll just be sharing one line. So go ahead and write as much as you like and pick out one line. So we have about 30 seconds left or so. So just allow yourself to dot your I's, cross your T's, and select the one line that really speaks to you that you would like to share.
Okay, before I ask for volunteers to share their writing with the group, I just want to say that with the Writers Club, Eva and I allow the writers to share their entire longer works without interruption. And then we invite positive feedback. In asking you to share today, it allows us to illustrate how we write and share together during our Writers Club weekly sessions, 2-hour weekly sessions. So let's do some sharing now. Please raise your hand if you would like to read one line that you have written.
Sue? Then
Thank
Cheryl.
you. Okay. I remember when we reunited and 50 years melted away with a kiss on the cheek.
Cheryl. You're on mute.
Sorry, I just realized that at the same time you said it. I didn't use one of the prompts. I actually was prompted by the word anchor when you were doing the sort of mindful meditation right before it. That word is where I sprung from. I used to think of my grief as an unwanted weight and a burden, a painful heaviness. Over time, I've shifted to a gentle understanding that this weight, this grief, this heaviness can be an anchor, a grounding in and of itself, and I can be held compassionately within it.
Thank you. Next, Heather, and then Lori.
I was just prompted by the grief I felt shortly after my spouse died. And anyway, I just wrote a statement. All of a sudden, I awake as a stranger in my own life, where I sit motionless to any awakened possibility of newness or life again.
Thank you.
Lori, then Christine.
Beautiful work. I remember when I got the phone call that you had died. My world turned upside down, my heart stopped, and I didn't think it would ever start again, but I had jobs to do. How the hell did this happen?
Thank you, Lori.
Christine?
I went that with question number 1. I give myself permission to move. That's all that came to me, was that I was looking at my grief in the present day, today, and I think the only thing I want to do is to be able to give myself a chance to move in whatever direction that is.
Thank you, Christine.
And those are all the hands we have up.
Thank you so much, Susan. You're doing a great job for us.
Thanks. Will you hire me?
I would.
Okay.
As a volunteer. Just 1 second here. Okay, I hope you're all seeing full screen again of this beautiful scenery.
We are.
Okay, so thank you all for those lovely one-liners. So our Writers Club, sorry, our Writers Club for Grief is part of a suite of bereavement programs delivered by Hospice Simcoe volunteers, supported by professional staff. And I've got the staff names on the right there. That's basically our community support team. Colleen Risk is highlighted. She's our staff person for Writers Club. She interviews and screens potential members to ensure they're fit with the group and with our way of operating. And she gives us ongoing support as needed, for example, if somebody is really struggling. We volunteers are not therapists, but we're backed by professional staff. Hospice gives us basic training, including specific training for grief and bereavement. We are also not professional writers or writing instructors, but we love writing to express ourselves. So typically, a bereaved client would initially have one-to-one grief support for about 6 or 8 sessions, and then they have the option of joining these various support groups. So our Writers Club members might also be participating, and they might know each other from other groups. Our members come from diverse losses and diverse life situations. We've had members who've lost their life partner, a parent or parents, children and grandchildren, and often multiple accumulated losses. And those can be through illness, through MAID, or through some sudden traumatic event. Our members have ranged in age from 25 years to nearly 90. So they really do represent a wide range of life experience and perspectives. And interestingly, so far, all of our members have been women.
This graphic here illustrates the process we came to adopt as a group. With the input of our first-year members, a writing routine was born. Allow me to explain its characteristics. After our short initial check-in, we take a moment to light candles. This ritual helps to center us and reminds us of the reason we are gathered. Our members are fragile emotionally. They are grieving important and life-changing losses. The light of the candle brings peace to most, but for those who face traumatic deaths that involve fire, it can be also triggering. So we are sensitive to that. For myself, the light invites the spirits of those who have died to join us and to guide my choice of words and heart during the sessions. Our session then offers a time to recognize and value homework writing. Eva and I gently nudge all members to write at home during the week, as we truly believe in the healing power of expressive writing. We avoid getting diverted by casual conversations, as our goal is to keep this sacred time to read self-written pieces and to write in silence. As members share their homework, they find purpose in writing at home and also develop the habit of writing on their own. The guided meditation helps us bring our hearts to the present moment, the breath, our feelings and emotions, and leads us into the first writing activity. As we have just experienced with you, we propose an activity and then allow time to write. Today's time was only 3 minutes, but it was representative of what we sometimes do at the end of a session when we only have time for a shorter activity. We ring a bell before each of our members begins to read. It is a reminder for us all to listen deeply and with intention. Members don't have to read their writing. They have the option to pass and just listen. When everyone has read their writing, we all offer appreciative comments. The 2-hour session finishes with a second guided meditation. There's no right or wrong approach in facilitating group writing. Other than journals, pens, and maybe candles, you don't need much in the way of materials to start a writer's club. As you build it with your members, it will take form, and it is important that they feel like it is their club. It is not complicated to get going and sustain. The sessions don't need a curriculum or an agenda. That's big for me as a retired school teacher. At first, I wasn't sure what writing prompts were needed to express grief. I wasn't even familiar with writing prompts at all. As time passed and we moved forward with our group, I started seeing and reading and hearing writing prompts everywhere. We will share some activities and prompts that have worked well for us in a few minutes. As far as group size, Eva and I feel that an optimal number is 5 to 8 members, plus 2 facilitators. And we wouldn't recommend more than 10 members. In early fall, new members sometimes feel afraid to share the intensity of their grief and their feelings. But within a very short period of time, they honestly speak of their grief in their writing. Most don't feel like themselves after the important losses. Writing wakes and liberates their emotions. It's as if they are writing their way home to their new life without their loved one. Ideally, Eva and I prefer face-to-face sessions for sure, but connection happens regardless. Some members have spoken of the group connection with gentle words such as, their besties group, the founders group, their lifeline, and the Fearless Six group.
So as facilitators, we also participate in group writing and in homework, and we read our work when it seems appropriate. We use our writing sometimes to get things going, like an icebreaker, or to model that it's okay to be vulnerable and to express emotion, or as a writing sample of some exercise that we're suggesting. And sometimes we just write to honor our own feelings and our own voice. So, and Lynn often writes with club members or a particular member in mind and in her heart, as in this short example that I'm going to play for you. Lynn, would you like to go next?
Sure. The first word that I saw was landscape. And Carol, I wrote this for you. The lonely landscape waits for her presence. It feels forgotten now and will smile at the lovely woman's visit. It intends on offering sereneness and wisdom to her, freely and lovingly. No effort, just a natural earth healer gift to her.
Well, thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
I'll send it to you, Carol.
Yeah, please.
You may be wondering how Eva and I prepare for these sessions. This picture speaks 1,000 words, as this is the office that we have used to plan. Eva and I both have pandemic puppies, and we walk them together often. To illustrate a typical conversation, we have prepared a dialogue. Imagine yourself on a walk with Eva and I now, and you will hear us debrief and discuss an upcoming Writers Club session. Enjoy the scenery. Here we go. Hello, Eva.
Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. This week's session really warmed my heart. It was fun and filled with delightful surprises.
Yes, you are the most empathetic person that I know.
Round robin writing really helps our members connect with each other and allows them to be creative at the same time. I love that they felt free to adopt different personas.
It seems like it lets them look at themselves from a different perspective. And it's neat how only seeing the lines from the previous writer makes each story take off in such a different direction.
True, Eva. I loved hearing them laugh too. They were so creative with their character sketches. And they were quite into it, as nearly all of them had homework to share this week. Maggie did a great job guiding us into character sketches last week. Everyone's character was so fun.
Yes, maybe kind of like an alter ego or an imaginary friend. It gives us a freedom to play around. There's a kind of safety in projecting into an invented character.
You're right. It was great that Maggie was willing to lead and share her know-how. Of course, she has belonged to writers' groups in the past, but in a gentle way, she's also inspiring other members to lead sessions.
I thought it was brilliant that you made your character into a cardinal, kind of like a spirit bird that's seeing into everyone's heart. It helped pull the storylines together and also remind us why we were actually here. It kept us going deep, but letting joy shine through at the same time.
You know how I love to plug grief into my writing. It heals my heart. Red cardinals are symbolic in the grief world. And another thing, Eva, did you notice that some of our members were totally removed from their suffering and in creative mode this week? And that others expressed grief safely through their character? I'm convinced that round robin writing with invented personas is a beneficial and fun activity for the group as a whole. What are your thoughts for next week?
Well, I'm thinking we should defer round robin writing since one of our members is going to be away. We could come back to group writing the next time and go to image prompts for this coming week. What do you think?
Yes, we could go to image prompts. I have a couple of pictures of myself doing some shadow dancing while on an early morning hike. I'll send them to you, Eva. We could write to our shadow selves and see what comes up. Also, I've been in touch with another hospice volunteer, and she has agreed to do some song lyric sessions with us next month.
Excellent. I'm thinking then we should try to bring in a couple of poetry sessions before that. I think Kim will be happy to lead. For next week, I'll bring the shadows into the meditation and hopefully get our members visualizing that darkness and light and their interdependence.
That's a great idea, Eva. We are ready for next Monday. And that's the end of our little dialogue. Now, this dialogue illustrates many important points. The first being that Eva and I are taking care of each other and ourselves and our puppies as we walk in nature together. It also illustrates the simpleness of planning for the next session after a short debrief. Another point is that by adding a grief component in my writing with the red cardinal, vulnerability is modeled. Other points are that homework is also shown to be valued and that there can be laughter amidst the grief work. The dialogue also showed that a Writers Club member led an activity with the character sketch that then led into a round robin activity. Members truly feel the ownership of their club when they take the lead, which is always optional, of course. I will come back to this idea shortly. The dialogue also showed the potential of inviting special guests. In this case, another trained hospice volunteer who is gifted with music. And lastly, it illustrates how guided meditation leads into writing, in this case, with the shadow dancing image prompts.
So here are Lynn's shadow photographs that became our image prompt. And this is what one of our members wrote.
In these days, I struggle to find myself. We two lived as one. We watched out for each other, taking care of each other.
Sorry.
I am just one now, unsure how to do this. I keep looking for me and for you. I see my shadow walking along the road beside me. I pretend that it is you. I reach out my hand. We hook our fingers together as we did so many times in my other life, the life we loved, the life I miss. I ask my shadow, how are you? Can you come home and join me? The shadow can't answer, but it does insist I am not alone. Look over your shadow. Look over your shoulder. I am here, walking right with you always. I sigh and tell my shadow, okay, but I still want more substance, more of our dream. It is okay, my shadow nods. I know. Remember, wherever you go, I will follow. You travel, and so will I. You cry, and so will I. You feel happy, and so will I. Dancing and swaying on a sunny patch on the kitchen floor, I will be your partner. I ask my shadow, you promise? He whispers back, I promise. What about in the night when it's so dark and I'm on my own? My shadow chuckles a little, then whispers in my ear, what do you like to do in the middle of the night? You run down the stairs and out the back door to the middle of the yard and you look up at the moon and the stars and the planets circling. Look down, my love. The moonlight is all around you, and there I am, your shadow, in the moonlight. See, I will always be close by. I reach out my hand to touch his heart, and for a while, we are one again.
Thank you, Cheryl.
As we've mentioned earlier, there have been some practices that have worked well. This list is a sampling of some writing exercises that we found really resonated with our members. I personally am a fan of personifying grief and emotions. Take this prompt as an example. I am grief. I am visiting your heart at this time. I am full of compassion. You are my voice. What do I say to you? Words, phrases, and image prompts are our staple, and many of these are powerfully demonstrated in the video clips you will be listening to. The image here shows the cover of our grief journals, designed by Colleen Risk and given to all our club members. If you haven't received one and would like to have one, just let us know.
So here's an example, one of our writers reading from her work inspired by this phrase.
I would tell you that I miss you and that there are many times when I'm lonely without you, but I would also tell you not to worry about me, that I'll be okay, and that the humor and resilience you and Dad showed to me continue to light my path forward. I would ask you what you do each day. I'm tremendously curious. You loved babies and you could see yourself looking after very young souls before they came to Earth. I would ask you if you got to do that and if you got to know your dad who died when you were 18 months old. I'd tell you to be happy, to be at peace with Dad and my sister, Sherry, and I'd tell you I'm counting on you being there when it's my time. I'd tell you that I'm incredibly proud of you, that I'm so grateful to be your daughter, and that I miss your hugs. I'd tell you I miss giving you the foot rubs that you love so much and going out together for lunch. I'd tell you that some days I pick up the phone just to imagine hearing your voice again. And you would say, I know you do, and I love you more.
Here are examples of image prompts. Allow me to direct your attention to the endless road and to the umbrella with the flowers in it. These are images that spoke to the writer in our next clip.
My eyes can't decide. I keep looking from the endless road to the umbrella, aware of someone who found beauty in the simple everyday things, and aware of the creativity behind the image and of the joy and satisfaction it brought, both to the one who created it and then of the joy it brings to all who admire it. An awesome link to the oneness of it all, and a reminder that in the end, it's those small, simple things that we miss the most when they are gone, and not the big trips or the shopping sprees.
Eva and I encourage members to co-facilitate. This is important to us as it can engage and empower members in taking ownership of their writers' club. It makes it theirs to shape and give direction to. Member-led activities also help them transition out of hospice-sponsored programs and into the world. Eva and I are always trying to build confidence and independence rather than dependency on hospice. These activities can also encourage members to continue their connection, including writing together after the close of our hospice club at the end of April. These particular images here came from one of our members, Carol. And as she proposed and led a writing session with an awe theme. And in our next clip, Cheryl was inspired by this theme, and this is what she wrote.
You had a protective way around me. It lasted 42 years, and even when you left, it was to protect me. My awe moments are now finding things finding things in our home that maybe you put here for me to find. The note you carried in your wallet that you painstakingly wrote out. The symptoms and stages of your illness and checked them off one by one. That was an awe moment for me as I realized you were keeping such meticulous note of where your journey was at. Right down to the very last, you knew how to protect me. As the stars and the moons stretch over the nighttime sky, I wonder at the moon in its different stages, mirroring my days. The full moon where I feel a bit crazy. The half moon when I'm feeling only half a person. The shadows and the dark spots feel like the valleys in my life. I love you to the moon and back now gives me a whole new experience when I look up and search for you.
So it's been nearly 2 years since we had to redefine and reinvent how we engage with each other. I'm not going to say much about the logistics of moving online because we've all done it. After all, we're here together now, and I'm no expert. But thanks to our Hospice Simcoe Executive Director, Kelly Hubbard, we managed the transition within, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the first shutdown back in March of 2020. The Writers Club met in person in 2019, and it was a lot easier to move that established group online. We already had good group dynamics, and we weren't yet dealing with pandemic fallout. And the online option is simpler in some ways because distance and bad weather aren't obstacles. Our last year's club had a member in Calgary, and Lynn was often joining us from her cottage. Now, in addition to the emotional upheaval of bereavement and grief, we have these layers of pandemic-induced stresses, which are partly a theme of this conference. And this affects all of us, not just our clients. Lynn and I have been doing far more reaching out and checking in with members outside of meeting times. Also, we had many writing exercises that worked really well in person, but didn't work as well or really not at all online. So we were quite challenged in figuring out how to bring collaborative writing to the online platform. When we met in person, we found that round robin writing was a good way to build connection and engaging group dynamics. Each person would write a line or two and then put that piece of paper in a bowl. And then we'd just draw at random somebody else's lines from the bowl and use those to continue writing and do that for multiple turns of the wheel, so to speak. Well, that really didn't lend itself to online. So we adapted. And in this case, everybody chooses maybe 5 of these words and writes for 1 or 2 minutes on each word. And then we assemble it into a single work. So here is an example of an assembled work for waves. And while Gwen is reading, you can see the individual contributions are in different colors.
Waves of emptiness flow towards me. My feet feel the water lapping over my toes. It creeps up my legs and engulfs me. The salty tears wash over my cheeks. Pain comes in waves, some rippling upon the shore. Some come crashing in force and deafening sound. There are lulls. There is a rhythm I need to ride and not fight the pace. The storm intensifies and sends its waves. I can still see you. I know you are there. I am here for you. I care. I have to make sure I can bear this storm, and I want to lend strength to those behind the waves.
This is another example of something approaching collaborative writing using random combinations from each column. and just seeing where it goes. It's kind of like flash writing in that each person screams 1 or 2 sentences from the same set of words and then reads in succession. And as you'll see in the next clip, it can be quite moving and also fun at the same time.
Grief is such an authentic journey, excessive in its intensity and forcing us to pivot into the unknown. I find my intention in the silences.
Wow, that's amazing. The things you can do under pressure, eh? Thank you. Thank you, Christina. Cheryl?
My inner compass has been muddled of late in this lonely journey. My intention is now unknown, but I'm trusting in a newfound courage to travel a road with a little less silence.
I love these. I love these. They're like little gems. Beautiful, beautiful. Carol.
My journey is clearly muddled. I will trust my inner compass, for God's instilled that inner knowing. Walk on in spite of betrayal. Self.
That's great.
Very nice.
That's great.
Drawing
Linda.
on your inner self again.
Linda?
Yeah.
Sorry, would you read?
Yep. This connected drama of grief has an authentic intensity in the journey through our daily lives as we follow a trusted compass with intention. Days can be clear, but then often muddled during the journey that we pivot along.
That's great. I love how some people take the nouns and turn them into verbs and whatever. You know, it's great. I love it. I love it. When would you like to read?
Okay. This journey I am on, with its sudden abrupt change in direction, how can it ever be clear? We seem to just have to muddle through.
Thank you, Gwen.
So as facilitators, we're really looking for ways and means and receptive moments to help guide the group collectively and as individual members into recognizing their own strengths, their own capacity for healing themselves and each other. We see members recover a sense of purpose and direction, and even though they still hurt and grieve, their relationship to pain evolves. So this is just a lovely example of how members support each other.
Beautiful. I like it. Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Did you write the last part for yourself or for with the group in mind? It sounds like it was kind of a reach out moment.
It was actually. I started out thinking that the quote resonated with me, but then I thought this is really true for everyone, that the last part really was with the group in mind, that we're all strong enough and we all will have moments in life where we smile. And
I think when we started talking 2 weeks ago about the concluding of this writers group, I think for a week, maybe 2 weeks, it was kind of heavy on all of our minds. And then I kind of noticed it maybe at the end of maybe last week, it might have been heavy, but we had a kind of an acceptance. And I think you're reaching out in your story right now. I think that's kind of maybe where we're all at, maybe. Yeah, I thought you did a good job there.
Thank you.
So we had intended another writing session if time permitted. We have maybe 15 minutes left, and I'm actually thinking I'd like to have a good chunk of time for the final discussion, so we can also hear from Christine, Lori, and Susan. So I'm going to suggest that you take these home and do your homework with them.
Eva, I think you're quite right. I think people would like to have some dialogue at this point.
Okay, yeah.
Because there's just been so much. I mean, I'm just like, I'm really loving this. I'd like to say, okay, just keep going, but we can't do that.
Yeah, we're gonna move into our our conclusions and final discussion then.
Beautiful, thank you.
So what I would say, trust the process, let it emerge naturally and go with the flow. And, coming from kind of competitive control freak background, it actually takes some effort to do that, but the benefits are wonderful. And I also say, trust the group, trust the members. We put considerable effort into shaping and encouraging an organic group dynamic. And that really allows members to listen deeply without judgment, to write and share authentic, often painful emotions and experiences, and also to really be there for each other. And to me, it feels like what we do is we create expressive space for healing to happen.
When I dreamed of starting a writers' club for grief for Hospice Simcoe, I never thought it would have that much of a healing impact. 2 years later, I can truly see this transformative power of expressive writing. It is truly a way to center oneself, ground oneself, and regulate oneself. It's giving a voice to the soul's journey. Seeing personal growth in our members within just a few months was truly delightful. I have witnessed honesty in grief writing. Members have felt safe, and together they gave voice to pain and suffering. Grieving hearts searching for understanding. Only they can tell their story. I consider our group as a collection of bereaved souls creating a collection of writing. This club is not just about giving a voice to feelings and thoughts. It's also about community. Our members felt supported, heard, witnessed, and not alone on their path. I always envisioned them as a beautiful collection of healers who gather to support each other. As our member Christina put it so beautifully when she spoke of the fearless six walking down a sandy beach in the future, I will leave you with her touching and very inspiring words. We will then follow with a last clip from her to end. I personally will never forget the powerful and unforgettable image that was engraved in my head that day. Christina wrote, "Sometimes one falls to their knees in the hot sand, but rather than try to pull each other up, we kneel and surround in a circle of strong hands, till once again, with teary eyes, we rise to meet the sun and continue walking together." Just beautiful.
So we're going to give the last word to one of our members, Christina, who wrote this piece, especially for the group. And I think it expresses beautifully her experience of the Writers' Club.
I joined the Grief Writers Club and was fortunate to find a wonderful group of caring, supportive people who were also bravely sharing their own journeys. I am blessed to have wonderful people in my life, but a writing group such as ours can be beneficial in a way that family and friends sometimes cannot. Our group shares a journey that is unique to each of us, and yet our grief connects us all. I can honestly say that a part of my heart and soul experienced healing because you were able to bear witness to my grief. And I thank each and every one of you for that. I hope that I have been able to do the same for you. Through our time together, I was able to write about different emotions and listen to others who were experiencing similar feelings. It gave me a safe place to express thoughts that I needed to let go of. It allowed me to talk about my mom and share treasured memories. I enjoyed telling funny stories about my loved ones and hearing the laughter, knowing that those memories would live on just a little longer.
Wow.
And as Sue mentioned, we added some documents to the Event Mobi site for you to access if you'd like to start your own Writers Club for Grief. And in the documents, we have like our first day format to get things started. We have an article from Hospice Simcoe newsletter that gives you a bit more information there. There's a Hospice Simcoe flyer to promote a Writers Club, so it gives you an example. We have examples of image prompts, word prompts, and some journal prompts. We have a letter from love. It is my example, written, inspired by Melissa Gilbert. She writes from love to herself every day. And we have examples of why people write and some suggested books and podcasts. And thank you. That's it.
Wow.
Thank
That was
you.
exactly the right thing to say. So guys, thank you so much. As somebody who's done her own writing program, I've got much to learn from you. And I can't wait to dig into the resources as I move forward. We're gonna take questions, but I have one question here from Juliet. She says, it's been an amazing session. I want to thank you for sharing how to and the benefits of supporting grieving individuals by thinking outside of the box. Such a powerful session. So there's some good validation right there. I think I only see Sue right now with her hand up. So Sue, if you want to ask your question, please do.
Thanks so much. Just a couple of comments. Thank you, number one. Just amazing, just has inspired me so much. I love the ringing in as your members are about to tell their story. I love that. I want to express my thanks to your members for being willing to share. I mean, that is amazing. Of course, can relate to that transitioning piece that you talked about. How do you transition from in-person to online? I run storytelling sessions through my end-of-life doula practice, and I absolutely adore doing it. It's my favorite way to share healing and togetherness, in our grief. So I don't have a question. I just want to say that thank you for the tools. And it is definitely something that I had been hoping to do this coming year. So it's timely and just so inspiring and fantastic tools. Thank you so much.
Well said, Susan. Any comments back, Lynn and Eva?
Not at this time for me. How about you, Eva?
Yeah, I have no particular comment on comment.
Okay.
Just thank you for your appreciation.
Christine, I see your hand up.
I just want to say it was wonderful. And what I loved about it was how you're able to take just individuals who are, it's kind of funny because when I wrote my books, people were like, you must be a writer, you're an author. And there's this certain, I don't know how to say it, your workshop is so touching. This certain idea of what you're like, that you're super smart or something. And you're not. You just have an ability to take your emotions and put them down on paper. And you hit writer's block. You hit these things where you're like, I know what I want to say, but I don't know how to verbalize it. And I think your techniques are so bang on because they're giving people these opportunities to look at different ways of writing. And so much of writing is not writing, if that makes sense. So I love the ideas and the techniques that you're doing. And I think that you're creating a world of amazing writers. And I hope these people continue to do this. And I hope that they grow from that. I just thought it was a great presentation. And I think you touched on all those avenues. And I think it's just so great for these people to realize that their story should be told. And there's so many ways to tell that it doesn't have to be solely just words. It's so much more than words. Great presentation, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Christine. I would say that yeah, it's really about creating space. It's not about having a preconceived notion of what things should look like. And I think that's where both Lynn and I really had to make an effort actually to let go. In Lynn's case of her career as a teacher and wanting to teach people. And in my case, just that command and control model of, everything has to be just so. But what I found, one eye opener, let's say for me, is when I have actually felt a bit at a loss about, where to go in this next moment with the group, actually I just kind of sit back and breathe, and somebody in the group steps up. That's happened to me so many times. And yeah, and it's often something that I wouldn't have thought of, and they're so supportive of each other and also of us facilitators. It's actually really touching. That touches me.
Thank you so much. You'd asked us to tell you a little bit about the programs we run, and I can just quickly say our program is actually a static program. So we don't have the regular groups. We send out weekly prompts over 8 weeks, and we have 2 sessions where people come together. And this was done totally as a reaction to COVID, because we had been planning a get together of 40 people with a writer in residence who was going to help them start to write their stories. And it died because it was going to happen on April 4th, 2020. So we had to backtrack and really quickly figure out what we could do. So we have not done the group oriented. What we've learned though, which is an interesting way of sort of jiggling the same idea in 2 different ways, is we get a lot more people who participate in our online group. We've run 5 sessions since COVID started, and we have new prompts for each of the sessions. So we just keep recreating with new ideas, and you've given me more. So I thank you for that. But what it's done is people who might not come to any of our other grief support online programming, so groups, art nights, book clubs, are joining that one. So it gives people who may not want to have, as you've had such beautiful, articulate group members, a chance to do something with their grief work. So I have this dual thing in my head thinking, I need to give more opportunities for people who want to talk about it and want to reflect together, but I still want to keep that ability for those who don't want to do that. And a lot of them are men. So our online program has probably 10 to 20%, depending on the session, men in the group, but they don't come online except for one dad who's a consistent. So again, there's just more ways to look at a grief group, but I love yours. I think it's even more powerful.
I really appreciate you mentioning men, Lori, because on Monday of this week, we had our first man, but he won't stay. He has figured out that it's not for him. He's more looking for like a coffee talk type of group. So we've steered him in the right direction with Hospice Simcoe. But we were so excited. It was going to be the first time a man was going to be present in the group. But I'm curious to know, like, what men would be looking for in that type of a group, and I'm not sure.
Well, the dads I'm working with are very much looking to write out things they can't say to somebody else. So the prompts are giving them that time and space to do it. The one dad who keeps coming back we have the 2 sessions that are a couple of hours to just talk about their writing and the things that they had hard times with, and they share pieces they want to share. And usually there's no more than 4, like you said, 4 to 5 to 6 people in those groups. The dad who keeps coming back says, my wife can't even hear what I have to say. So I really appreciate having somebody else to hear it. However, he's, in my head, a bit of an anomaly as a grieving dad. And so I don't think the other dads that participate are looking that way.
Okay.
Christine, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that I've ran a gentleman's writing group, and what I found so fascinating was they constantly wanted permission that it was okay. They seem to really want to know it's okay to express their emotions and to, in a sense, be so vulnerable.
Mhm.
That seemed to be a huge thing that we had to get over, that it was okay to be part of a writing group, and it was okay to write this down and admit that we hurt. Um, and I've noticed a lot of men are wanting this very much, but it does go against society's view of what men are like. So, and then there's this other side of men that I feel is the younger generation that are coming up that are just writing and talking and expressing, and I just love them to death. So it's a real catch. Like, I find there's such a mixed bag, but I felt like the hardest part or the hardest hurdle was giving them permission.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
Susan, I think Sue, you were next, and then Susan. It's the balance of the Sues.
I'm just also to add to that, I was in a group the other night, a session, and there was a male end-of-life doula. And I am always so happy to welcome that. And, you know, we had a discussion, like, just a lovely, lovely guy, and really feels called to the work, which was amazing. But yeah, I no answers, no questions, just a comment on really wanting men to embrace the work and just drag them in, kicking and screaming. It's always, but it is always nice to share the space with men and get their, you know, their feedback on things. Yeah.
Thank you, Sue.
Susan.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Lori, would there be a way to utilize that one dad that keeps showing up to have him say, you know what? Is there a way you could encourage other dads and maybe?
Oh, he does.
Okay.
He joins most of our other activities, and he keeps saying, you know, we got to get into that grief talking, writing, and it's just, again, many of them join but don't join the group part of it. They do it as an individual expressive activity, and I think that's better than nothing.
Right. Yeah. I was actually very fortunate. The last several groups that I've run, we're almost running half men. And so, and it's a whole different dynamics to the group, but it's quite lovely because it gives the women an idea of, oh, okay, well, wouldn't have thought of it that way, a very different perspective.
Exactly.
And I find all of them really need to, it's almost like a little bit of a sell as to why it's going to benefit. You know, what are they, why waste their time? And and a lot of times if they feel there's a purpose and a benefit to others, like other family members, you know, a remaining spouse or their children or something like that, or, you know, that will give them the foundation to move on, then that seems to, you know, really, really work. So that's
Good point.
Thank you, Sue.
Last comment before we say thank you to Lynn and Eva, and that's to Cheryl.
Oh, well, it's not really a last comment. I don't want to waste time. I just wanted to quickly say to Susan that we struggle here at BFO with engaging men in different ways too. And we just had a really engaging gentleman in a small group that we were running recently. And we asked him if he would write something in his own words about what the group did for him. And we gratefully accepted his entry, and we put it in our newsletter and made a blog post on our website to hopefully have a man's perspective, that maybe another man might read it and say, okay, there is another guy going here, maybe I can too. So it's just another idea, that's all.
It's a great idea. Thank you. Lynn, Eva, thank you ever so much for this presentation and for opening people's eyes to more possibilities, even in an online format, that we can use to connect people to their hearts through writing. We have a request again to have you do your evaluations, please, which you'll find on the Event Mobi app. And we will be back at 3 o'clock to hear I'm having just a brain moment on her name, Shelley Corey from Canadian Grief Alliance and the Canadian Virtual Hospice. Speak.
Not 3 o'clock, 2:15.
2:15, sorry. I'm looking at my time and it's the wrong time. So 2:15, thank you. So that we can learn more about what the Canadian Grief Alliance is, as we are part of one of the supporting organizations as BON, but also to see what role you as an individual might be able to play in promoting the work that we're doing as people supporting the grieving. So we hope we'll see you then. And tonight we've got our short films, and we've got about anywhere between 7 and 12 pieces, depending on how much we talk, that we'll go through and share.
Oh yeah.
All right.
And I went through them and I've cried galore.
Oh,
and
good.
it'll be great for discussion. So be there. I don't want to be alone.
Thank you,
guys. See you soon.
Thank you all.